set up one that was totally unaffiliated with anybody, just so people would have a place to go. And we had, the first year we had it open for everybody was 125 people. And then we did it for 5 years, and we got to about 250 people. And these were just people that, again, didn't have a place to go when they came, so that was one of the things we did. We would fly speakers in from around the country, and he would put that on his credit card. So that would all go on his credit card, and then I had to make sure that we had enough offerings to to get his credit card paid back, because he was putting everything up front on that. One thing that I remember, and this was, I think I must have been in junior high, and he was working at that point as his conscientious objector job was at Goodwill in Portland, and that's what he was getting 2 years to do that. And so, I don't know whose idea it was, but I went down to visit him. And if I remember right, my dad drove down and dropped me off there. And so I was with my brother. I'm a little teenage kid, a little junior high kid, I think just barely going into junior high. And it was the first time that anybody ever treated me like an adult. I was amazed. We went out for this walk, and he had this wig that he put on. It looked like he had long hair, and so he let me wear that, and his peacoat, his navy coat. And so we're walking along, and I'm wearing this stuff, and I must have looked ridiculous, but he didn't care. It was fine, and we walked and went and saw a movie. We went to see Chisholm, which was a John Wayne movie. Now, back then, the rating system was you had G and M, and then X. And those are the ratings. You had general, mature, and then really racing, X. And X was like, a lot of times you have R today would be considered X factor. But we went
it was 18 and above or 21 and above.
Yeah, I went to this M-rated movie with my brother. It was violence is what it was. It was John Wayne, John Wayne television. But again, you got to feel like you're big, like you're an adult, like you can do these things that you've never done before. And that was my first, like I say, the first time that I was anybody treating me like I was an adult. So that was kind of a big thing in my life. But he was very thoughtful, and sometimes too thoughtful. And sometimes I'd say, it doesn't matter, this thing doesn't matter. And I go, oh, I guess you're right. But because he had certain opinions, and that everybody knows that and could be very obstinate in those opinions, but that was good, because that was you always knew where he was, where he stood, and it was there was never any question of what he's thinking, because you knew. But no, it was. I will miss the advice. I would always write him, say, let me get your advice on this. And then he, no matter what it was, he'd write something back. Oh, okay. Because that was always valued. I always valued his intellectual ability to analyze something and to give me advice on what he thought was, well, you should know, this is really the way that is. Oh, okay, we're good. So, but, he's, was always the one that sang lead when we sang. So the next time we get together, it's going to be really crazy. Because the boys that get together won't have a lead singer, which will make it a little tough.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll pick it up sort of in the middle of where Rick started this. My name's Tim Schaefer, and I met these boys when they made the transition from the Presbyterian church into the other, because I was already there with my family. Our moms became fast friends. Us boys, all being relatively the same age. There was Greg, then Gary, and then me about 2.5 years afterwards. So it all kind of worked. But music was the thing that kind of brought us together. And so as Greg being enough older, by the time he got out of high school and he was off and in Portland, then I still had time in music a bit with Gary, but it was really before anybody was doing anything outside of just virtually standing on a street corner and singing, you know. We did a little bit more than that, but it wasn't much more than that. And then nothing for years, and I mean years. I bumped into Gary at a club in Kent in about '85. We were going into the same place, once again, singing karaoke. And this guy just bugged the hell out of me because he seemed so familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on him. And finally we're sitting across the table, and if you were ever around this group of guys, each one of them has a very, very distinctive laugh. And his, you can hear in a room of 750 people. And I went, you, me, let's go outside, we need to talk. It scared the living hell out of me. Because there's a bit of a size difference. Anyway, we got outside and went, Richardson. And about that time, I think, either as we were going outside or about the time I said that, he figured out who I was, and boom, it all came back. And for the next 15, or 10, 15 years, we would sing together a lot. Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, didn't matter. There'd be the two of us, there might be 5 of us, different people that we bring in. Gary hosted, Shomeir, gone. Had no idea where he was. I'm at a club that Gary honestly introduced me to years ago. And I've been there one night, and there's this guy, again, looks really familiar, and I can't figure out who the heck it is. Kind of looks like Gary. It's not Gary. And the voice sounds really familiar, but it's been just so long. And okay, listening to him, I'm gonna get this. So Gary's hosting at this little club down in Kent, and I go down and talk to him, and he goes, well, that's Shomeir. I went, who the is Shomeir? And he goes, Greg. Boy, I missed something in those 30 years. What the heck? And he goes, it's a long story. But that's Shomeir, that's my brother Gary, or Greg. And so I get up there, and he doesn't show up for months. Finally he does. Because that was when he was going through some difficulties at that time. Anyway, in the meantime, the two of them have spoken. So the next time I see Shomeir, he sees me, we both meet, big hug in the middle of this place. And again, just like nothing had ever happened 58 years ago when we first met, get back up again and started singing together. So instead of it being Gary and I singing together, because he's in Shelton, where the heck you guys are right now. But Shomeir being closer, he and I would sing, and guess who's doing the melody and guess who's doing the harmony? So we would do that constantly. So